speaking of time and momentum and building a brand, I'm a big believer now that the brand is a lot more than just aesthetics. It's really everything that people are saying about your company when you're not in the room. And given that salespeople in any kind of B2B space are probably not in the room for a huge percentage of the sales cycle anymore with so much self-driven research. But you mentioned that you're working on this event coming up around AI. I'm curious if you can walk us through what went into planning this event, how you've worked with other companies externally to pull this together, what kind of stakeholders were involved internally, what kind of the promotion plan looked like, and how you're ultimately going to judge the success of the event after it's happened.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the works right now. So this is really exciting times, like all the conversations right now are based around AI. And as we mentioned, NJFX is now becoming a data center with AI enablement. And we're working with our partners, EXA Infrastructure, Bulk Infrastructure, and a new partner, Supermicro, on this event on bringing hardware connectivity, sustainability needs to your network. And it's been a really interesting time collaborating with these different companies because they come from all different sizes all around the world with all of their unique skills inside of themselves as a whole too is really interesting. I'm very grateful that I get to work and collaborate with other marketing teams, and I get to kind of lean on them and they get to lean on me when it comes to setting the agenda and securing our vendors and getting speakers and figuring out what our presentation topics are going to be. Like there's so many little tiny things that go into planning. I think I'm very grateful I have a great co-sponsors with me and a great team, and we have weekly calls to make sure that we're on top of everything. I think that's extremely important, is to having the communication. If we didn't have weekly calls or at least emailing each other every week about, okay, like here's the audience list, this is my section of what we're going to do for this is the marketing materials that we're going to supply this, like there's so many things in between and you just don't want to overlap, or you don't want to repeat yourself, or you just want to make sure that there's a smooth flow. And if there's a smooth flow in communication, I 100% believe there'll be a smooth event in as well. It does take time. I mean, we're still in the efforts and the works of this event, but we're coming into where we're now starting to market this event. Now that we have the location secure, our speakers secure, our agenda is set, that I think that was really like the main struggle. And now the second is getting the audience. It's very specific on who we want to showcase, and that's another conversation you need to have too with all of your sponsors, is who is the audience? Who do you want in the room? Because you could have 100 people in the room, but only one person might be a customer of yours, and you want to have a higher ROI when it comes to this event, and you want to make sure that whoever you're inviting to will get something out of this. So we're making this a very educational event where we're applying data center infrastructure, connectivity, and hardware to the financial market. So it should be a really interesting event. I'm very excited to be working with these companies because they are huge players in the field. And yeah, I'm looking forward. And it's right here in New York City, so it's like right in the backyard. So it's nice, a nice familiar area too. So it's a good time.
Yeah, it ups I was going to ask if you're hosting just a small on-site event at NJFX or hosting at an external location, but you answered my question. Yeah, it's really an interesting balancing act, because you've gone to enough events where you said, gee, wouldn't it be really cool if we had an event where we controlled the agenda, we got to cherry pick who we wanted to be on the invite and the attendee list and the speaker list, and we didn't have to compete for attention with 50 other speakers and 100 different exhibitors. It is awesome, but it is an awesome amount of work as well.
It is. And that's why I said, I'm very grateful that I have such a supportive team, and even my external teams, with Bulk, Supermicro, and EXA, they've also been very hands-on and supportive. And, you can't have a successful event without having successful teams with you.
I always say too, when you're planning any kind of event, is to think about what the audience, like defining who the buyer persona is and maybe who the primary and the secondary is, so you can get a lot more clarity. Even when people are considering exhibiting or speaking, I always tell them to pull the media kit from last year, get the prospectus from this year, and see if at least it's not like most of these events companies are typically not having external auditing of this, but at least there's self-reported demographics, the industries, the company sizes, and the job titles, how well it lines up to someone's ideal client profile, because that is often very, very telling as to who the typical attendee is going to be in an event. When you're hosting the event, you get to pick exactly that. You know exactly if you're going to sit and go in and do searches in LinkedIn Sales Navigator or run ads on LinkedIn or something like that. You know exactly. You can manually build the company list and say, oh, these are 800 companies that we ought to invite people from, and if we got representatives coming from 10 or 20% of them, we'd consider it successful if they're in these job roles or at a certain seniority or something. Right. It's a super cool thing, but yes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of lead time, and especially the first time through, there's so much learning curve, and there's so much like building the processes and checklists.
There is, and that's why I keep repeating myself, but I'm very grateful that I have this team as well with me, because we all have our parts, like I was in charge of doing all of the graphics, marketing, and setting the venue. I had Bulk help me set the agenda and get the speakers locked down. So we all had individual parts of responsibilities that we had to take, and you rely on each other. So you want to make sure that you're representing yourself and the company respectfully, and you want to showcase yourself at a high degree when you're working with these companies, because you want to work with them again. And I'm not going to be at NJFX forever, and keeping these relationships with them is so important to me. So I love continuously collaborating with companies. That way I could keep talking to the marketing teams and learn more about them and how they got into this industry too. That was like a huge part of one of the things I did for NJFX. I did the Luminaries in Telecom, which was interviewing, industry leaders that have been in this market for a very long time, and no one's really interviewed them about their life and how they've gotten here and experienced it, and how they've changed this industry, and what impacts they've had and what impacts have been put on them. So I find it so interesting, especially like women too. Like I don't really talk to a lot of women on phone calls or even in conferences. So when I do get to see or talk to a female marketer on the call, like that's really exciting too. Because a lot of the marketing teams don't go to these conferences. Like it's all sales oriented. So it is really nice to catch up and see who's behind the scenes of who get the team to the event, set the marketing, and all of that fun jazz.
Yeah, it's interesting because in a lot of ways, even as a marketing team of one, when you start doing collaborations with other companies, you essentially start to build informal peers, which is great for bouncing ideas off of, especially if there's a healthy respect for the benefits of what each person is bringing to the table. Because as a small company, there's huge strengths, and as a large company, there's also huge strengths. One of the biggest strengths of the small company is you can move super fast. You don't need layers and layers of stuff. You can go to like your CEO and get approval in half hour if you needed to, whereas someone in a larger company, like it could take weeks. So the agility and everything makes an enormous difference. The challenge too with events also is, and the good part with having multiple partner vendors involved is you lessen some of the financial risk. But for once you graduate beyond hosting just a small breakfast seminar or lunch and learn, where you're hosting it at your own facility, where the cost is next to nothing.
Right.
That you don't need to do a lot of external advertising. Once you start going to hotels and convention centers, and all of a sudden these are 5, 6, in some cases on the large side, they can be 7-figure investments. So yeah, it can be a really, really big jump for a lot of companies. And because of that, there's big expectations, which adds to all of that as well.
No, I definitely feel the stress and the anticipation and the fiery passion that I have to get in this event, like going and successful. I feel like what other conferences go with, and that's even like at a larger scale. We're looking to get at least 30 people to attend, like a very intimate, small event. While, you go to like the capacities of the world and there's at least 1,000 people in a room, and that can be very overwhelming. And I would definitely need a team for that. I don't know if I'd be able to control 1,000 people on my own, but I think I could do 30. That works for me.
If I can give you some advice that I think will help you get even more mileage from the event, is put a freelance videographer in your budget for the event. You'd be amazed at how many cool things that you can do with the full and segments of it and shorts and everything for months and months and years long after that for repurposing. Plus, if you have any aspirations of repeating the same event next year, you'll have great content to be able to lay the groundwork for that. But yeah, educational events are awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know the videographer is definitely good advice. Yeah, and then we wanted to, like, I think that's what we're kind of sticking to, is just having is educational. We want to be informal but educational. We're doing a lot in this industry, and I think we've always kind of been a leader in this data center connectivity space, with the subsea cables that land right in our station. So this is just us kind of continuing that leading position of now going into AI infrastructure and educating the marketplace that AI is coming to New York City, to New Jersey, to the East Coast, to the United States. It is here, and it needs to have high density power somewhere, and that's where NJFX comes in to play. And you could put a node right into our facility and connect to the CoreWeaves and the Supermicros and the NVIDIAs of the world, and really expand your network in a new way.